The National Health Emergency Bill, which has passed its first reading, was sponsored by Senator Chukwuka Utazi, who is representing Enugu North Senatorial District and double as Chairman, Senate Committee on Primary Health and Communicable Disease. After the presentation of the bill, the former Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu, who is representing Enugu West Senatorial District, immediately opposed the bill, saying, "I rely on Order 41 of the Senate Standing Rule. As a senator, I am entitled to know the details of this bill. We want to have copies of the gazetted copies. There is controversy over the same bill in the House of Representatives. We don't want to have the same issue here. And we need to be guided to avoid any backlash. I need to read it and prepare ahead of time." This was after the Speaker of the House of Representatives sponsored the Control of Infectious Diseases Bill. Some days earlier, with the support of two other members, namely Honorable Pascal Obi and Honorable Tanko Sununu, and have quickly passed through first and second readings in the House of Representatives. This bill has raised a lot of questions from well-meaning Nigerians, and we shall be looking at these questions and as well reviewing the bill for your better understanding. Good day and welcome to today's edition of Christians in Politics. I am Smart Simon, and we shall be reviewing the proposed National Health Emergency Bill. And I have with me in the studio the Venerable Joseph O. Unuaya JP, our in-house analyst, and also via Skype, a learned gentleman, Barrister Martin Luther Okere, who will be doing justice to the topic. You're welcome, sirs.
Thank you.
I would like to start with the barrister. What does the National Health Emergency Bill and the Control of Infectious Disease Bill entail?
Thank you so much for having me. Is a legislation before the House of Rep, a bill which tends to enact an act to repeal the Quarantine Act of 1926, and then enact the Infectious Diseases Act, make regulations pertaining to quarantine, and then regulations to preventing the introduction and spread into Nigeria of infectious diseases. By the act in Section 3, by the bill in Section 3, the President declares a public health emergency where he is satisfied that there is imminent outbreak of infectious diseases, which poses a significant risk of a substantial human fatality. But after the declaration in the bill, it is the order as to the medical examination the people are subjected to will be made by the minister. And so it's a recent bill at the House of Rep, which tends to enact an act, Infectious Diseases Act 2020.
All right, thank you so much, Barrister. Do you think this is the right time to enact this bill on infectious diseases?
All right. Every legal scientist knows by the mischief rule of interpretation and by legal evolution that prevailing situations determine legislation. However, the first schedule of this bill listed 34 infectious diseases. The second schedule listed 4 infectious diseases, of which the last is coronavirus disease. And over time, Nigeria has been faced with outbreak of communicable diseases, likes of Lassa fever, Ebola, avian influenza, and the rest of them. At no time did any assembly call for a bill which tends to make vaccination compulsory. All right. Again, by the mischief rule, there are 3 questions to ask. What was the law before the coming of the act intended to be made? And if you ask that question, there are 4 extant laws with respect to disease surveillance in Nigeria. We have the Quarantine Act 1926, we have the National Health Act 2014, we have the National Center for Disease Control Act of 2018, that's the NCDC Act 2018, and we have International Disease Surveillance Regulation Policy 2005. Now you ask, what are the defects that the new act is coming to remedy? Perhaps the introduction and spread into Nigeria of infectious diseases. And the final question is, what are the remedies provided in the new act, in the new law, which are not in the old ones? And so by a cursory look, when you do a detailed analysis of the bill, the 81 section bill, you found out that there is compulsory vaccination, there is a compulsory isolation, compulsory, the people are subjected to medical examination based on mere suspicion, discretion of the DG of NCDC, and then the Minister of Health. And we are saying this virus, COVID-19, coronavirus disease, is not only known to Nigeria. More people has died in America, more people has died in China, in Germany, in Italy, and every other places. And in none of these places do we see a bill for infectious diseases tending to make compulsory vaccination. So this is not the right time. It is not the right time at all.
Okay, so it's not the right time. Let me come to Venerable, whether you share his opinion, because at this point in time, already we have so many cases of COVID-19. And I should think that the government should work hard to ensure that those who are already in isolation centers, those who are already affected, should see what to do to ensure that the cases reduce, and even let them make sure that COVID-19 is totally done away with. Thereafter, we can now begin to talk about the bill that we can put in place to be able to regulate in case in future something like that happens. So what is your opinion on this? Do you think this is the right time to actually come up with this bill?
Well, defining the right time for any bill to be enacted is really difficult.
Okay.
Yes. But for this, I share in the opinion of the barrister that this may not be the right time at all. It's just like, as I have said, this thing, coronavirus had dealt with other nations even more than what we have experienced thus far.
Yes.
We have not had any place where they are busy pushing a bill for compulsory vaccination. And like many have even also said, there's no even vaccine developed. I wish somebody was even trying to make a bill, enact a bill that will make it mandatory for our country, our research institution, to compulsorily develop a local vaccine to solve this problem, or develop a local drug to address this very issue. So I wouldn't know why the kind of rush which we have seen in the House of Representatives, in particular, about this very bill. Now, I'm not sure this is an executive bill. If it was an executive bill, I would say, okay, maybe it is the right time, because the executive are trying to battle to control this COVID-19. Maybe they have run into some hiccup here and there, and they discover that the problem is lack of provision in the the acts, or what we already have on ground in the Constitution. So the executive, to that effect, can initiate a bill and be pushing it so as to be able to fight this war effectively. But this is not an executive bill. This is a bill that is just being pushed by the House of Representatives, and I learned that the bill is also now before the Senate. but those ones are treading a little bit cautiously because of the discussion already on air about the way and manner the House of Representatives was trying to handle the bill. Now, the rightness of the time is not even my major concern, but the content. Okay. Any bill can come up at any time and be passed at any time. But what is the content of the bill? So that is the issue. No, when the barrister was giving some insight into the bill just now, he made a statement that I noted, said if the president is satisfied that there is an outbreak or there is an imminent outbreak, which means there's no outbreak, but he is satisfied as an individual, as a person, that there could be an outbreak, then he can just declare a state of emergency. So to that effect, there are so many things that need to be interrogated in this way. I don't know whether there will be another time for us to look more into some of the things we have found inside the bill, which are directly against democratic principles.
All right, thank you so much, Venerable. Now, Barrister Martins, Esquire, do you think if this bill is passed, it will infringe on the fundamental human right of the citizens?
All right, taking it from where the Reverend Gentleman stopped. You see, what the bill have succeeded in doing is to surrender the civil rights and fundamental freedom of over 200 million Nigerians to the whims and caprices of the DG, NCDC, and the Minister of Health. That's number one. Number two is that the entire text of the entire bill are subjective, not objectivity. That is, if the president is satisfied, if the DG thinks, so they are subjective. Okay, the entire arrest to be made by the bill, they are to be made without warrants. They are to be made without warrants, and this was mentioned 14 times in the entire bill. Okay, when you move out from there, you found out that there is a section of the bill, section 15, 17, 54 of the bill that makes disclosure of information compulsory. That's an infringement on section 39 sub 2 that recognizes confidentiality of information is pertinent to the right to freedom of expression. All right, the compulsory vaccination, compulsory examination of people, because the minister says these people who are coming in, if you've not tendered certificate of vaccination, you have to be subjected to medical examination. All of these things, it is gross abuse. It is gross abuse of fundamental right to dignity of human person. This would be the worst kind of servitude known to man, because the Constitution is saying in section 34 that nobody shall be subjected to slavery or servitude. So the compulsory isolation, detention, incarceration, vaccination of people based on mere suspicion, not even a rigid medical examination, is a destruction waiting to happen. Again, you move out from there, the compulsory vaccination poses threats to life, which section 33 of the Constitution has held sacrosanct. And so you read the entire gamut of the bill, there is nothing there that did not puncture on any of our known fundamental rights. You come to the bill also when as a matter of fact, section 16 and 18 of the bill, which is on abatement of crowd, and then abatement of crowd and then gathering of assembly, is an infringement on section 41 of the 1999 Constitution, freedom of assembly and association. In other words, we will have to gather based on the discretion of the NCDC, the DG NCDC. We will have to gather subsequently, if the bill becomes a law, at the discretion of the Minister of Health. And so this punctures a fundamental right to freedom of assembly. Okay, and when these rights are contravened, the most regretful aspect of it is that you do not have access to the courts. It's as if the bill ousted the jurisdiction of the court. So you can only have recourse to the minister. And the minister is an appointed person. Section 6 sub 6b of the 1999 Constitution reposes such sacred function on the courts on the court. But now the bill is as if taking the function of the court and then imposing it on the minister. And we are saying that this is utter abuse, this is infringement, this is contravention of every fundamental right of the citizen. A situation whereby your right is contravened and you don't have access to the court, you only have access to a minister whose decision is final. I'm saying is undemocratic, is unheard of anywhere. Again, if you come to the bill in section 80 is saying that a minor is somebody who is below 21 years. But the Constitution in section 24 has said that full age is the age of 18. The compulsory isolation is an infringement on fundamental right to freedom of movement. And so basically every of our fundamental rights will be contravened by the bill. And so it leaves much to be desired, whether this law is actually for the well-being of the democratic citizens of Nigeria or not.
All right, thank you so much, Martins. Now, let me come back to the studio and then ask Venerable, have you read this proposed bill? If you have, what are your observations?
Okay, now, the first question is yes. I have the bill here with me in the studio.
Okay.
What I have here is the one before the House of Representatives, otherwise cited as Control of Infectious Diseases Bill 2020.
Okay.
It's 63 pages. I've downloaded it. I've read it back and front.
Okay.
And I want to say, a line with what the barrister had just said, that the power that is vested by this proposed bill on the minister and the DG of NCDC is so much that it is certainly subject to abuse. These persons can exercise any form of discretion, even based on mere suspicion. They can just take a decision. And saying that the minister has the final say is there, that if you are not satisfied with what the DG is saying, you only appeal to the minister, and whatsoever the minister decides is final. That takes away the jurisdiction of the courts, of the judiciary completely, who are to interpret the law, whom we are to run to, for adjudication, when one feels that his right is being infringed upon. Now, he was mentioning some sessions and some of the things that are worrisome.
Yeah.
One other one he did not mention is about the issue of post-mortem examination, where the DG has the right to conduct an autopsy on the corpse of any person once he has any suspicion, in the name of trying to investigate the type of disease that kills that very person, and without any recourse to the children or to the family members. So in other words, if this bill becomes a law, the DG can use the body of any Nigerian, of any citizen, to do experiment in a lab without recourse to the family. And I think that is gross abuse. Then another session, I'm using pages here. If you read page 10 and 11 on the disposal of corpse, you will discover that the DG is conferred by this very bill with the powers to dispose any corpse the way he likes. This is Africa, and we don't dehumanize people at death. We don't dishonor people at death.
We honor our dead.
We honor our dead people. So we cannot afford to leave the discretion of how any person will be buried, whether it will be cremated, whether it will be dumped, whether there will be mass burial, whether the cost will be given to the family or not. Everything is just at the discretion of one single individual. So that is one other issue. Then on the issue of vaccination, which the barrister also talked about, it is clearly stated in pages 26 and 27 that any person that is coming to Nigeria who have no certificate of vaccination against any of these diseases, especially COVID-19, will not be allowed to enter into the country. Instead, he will be sent back to the point where he was coming from. But the bill is silent about about the citizens of Nigeria. If a citizen of Nigeria is coming from the UK, is coming home or for visit or whatever, and he has no certificate of this vaccination, what will happen to such person? They are silent on it, but I believe something is fishy in there. Now, the bill need to be very clear about what happens to the citizens of Nigeria. It goes on and on. Then
exactly.
the one that is more worrisome to me is the statement on page 35 of that particular document before the House of Representatives, where it is stated, I quote, "This order may specify the person by whom and the way the vaccination is to be carried out." This is a very pregnant statement that by this order of the DG, they can specify the person by whom you will be vaccinated. In other words, the right to choose who will vaccinate me, the right to choose the hospital where I will be vaccinated against any disease has automatically been taken away from me as a citizen. Then, not only that, it says, and by the same order, they can determine the way the vaccination is to be carried out. In other words, if it is the same person that is to carry out the vaccination that will determine how he wants to carry it out, whether he wants to put the vaccine on my leg or my forehead or my hand, I have no discretion. If I reject it, I've already committed an offense. And this is where there's a deep suspicion. You hear some people, those are yet to be proved, so many allegations on air that some people have taken money from some people to push this very bill and to make sure that this vaccination that they are talking about is compulsory. We have heard, it's not a news again, it's everywhere in the media that there's a particular vaccine that is to be produced by a particular company overseas, which have a nano ID for identification that will be put on people's forehead, and people are already linking it up with what is written in the Bible, in the book of Revelation. That a time will come when the mark of the beast will be forcefully put on people's head and people's hand. This is why many people are worried. So you cannot, if yes, you have the right to say every person should be vaccinated. Good. But must you also dictate, as the bill is trying to put it forward now, that I must be vaccinated by so-so person, by so-so doctor. And the doctor must determine how he wants to do the vaccination. I have no say in anything. There are people in Nigeria, even some of the people pushing this bill, have they been going to government hospitals? They have always been patronizing private hospitals and patronizing hospitals in abroad. But this bill now is saying you must go to a particular hospital determined by the NCDC chairman, and you must be vaccinated by a particular doctor that is specified, and the doctor have the right to vaccinate you, put it anywhere. I mean, there are so many things. And another thing that is so offensive is that you, in the bill, they have the right to break into any person's house without warrant, as he has said. They can arrest, they can impound vehicle, they can impound the ship.
They can seize your property as isolation centers.
Yeah, they can impound an aircraft and quarantine it. The occupants will not be allowed to disembark until when they are satisfied. What kind of draconian bill is that? And the only place where I saw they talk about redress, or maybe before I mention that, even they can lock up any building, any place they suspect that, oh, the place could be infectious, without even yet confirming. And at the end of the day, if the owner enters into that very building, he's deemed to have already committed an offense.
Wow.
So in other words, just the same way now they have asked that every church should close up, every mosque you close up. Somebody can come up tomorrow hiding under this bill and say he suspects that there's infectious disease around my church building, and ask that they should lock up that very church until the NCDC DG is satisfied that the place is safe and I cannot worship anymore. These are some of the danger we are facing. And they say they can destroy, demolish any property without any warrant, and any person who resists it is deemed to have committed an offense. And the only place they put, that is in page 40, item B, they put it there that if your property is confiscated or destroyed or whatever, you can seek a redress in court if you so wish, and they gave only a window of 3 days. My question is 3 days enough for you to get a good lawyer? Is 3 days enough for you to brief the lawyer and raise the money, the legal fees that the lawyer will require, and all the documents and papers you need to file? Is 3 days enough for that citizen to file this thing? It means they just indirectly, they don't want any person to be able to have access to justice.
That is it.
So to that extent, I feel this bill should be stepped down. There should be public hearing, and let's interrogate this bill and know whether actually there are some forces, external or internal, that are pushing this very bill.
All right, thank you so much, Venerable, for educating us on some of your observations. Barrister, now if, as Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila claimed, the idea is to provide solution to the challenges brought about by COVID-19, then why such desperation to enact this legislation?
All right. I must say first
Barrister,
that the desperation of the House in terms of speedy passage of this bill is legendary. It's legendary, to say the least. And it may not be unconnected with sinister motive, as some has pointed out in several quarters in the public. The point now is there are stages of lawmaking. We have the originating stage, the initial review, the gazetting. It's after the gazetting that the public gets to be aware that there is a bill about to be at the floor of the House. After that, then the first reading, the second reading, which it has passed now, and then the committee stage. It's at the committee stage that members of the public will make their suggestions. And mind you, even if the over 200 million Nigerians make suggestions as to amendments of the bill, some parts or alter amendment of the bill, it takes a member of the committee to move a motion before the floor of the House or Senate for such amendment to be made. And it has to be done in tandem with the principles of the House. And so I'm saying that to say that when you read the pages of this bill, the entire 81 section of this bill, you see enough desperation. Section 54 that the Reverend Gentleman was trying to point out when he spoke about redress about when your property is being seized by the DG of NCD to the magistrate courts. You see an altered expression there, because the NCDC is a federal agency, and by section 251 sub 1 R, paragraph R, such jurisdiction is vested on the federal high court and not on the magistrate courts. Another thing is, okay, if you are granting such redress, why 2 days? When the Constitution in section 35, subsection 11, is saying that adequate time and facility, a person who has been charged of a criminal offense shall be granted adequate time and facility to proffer defense. Adequate time and facility, and the court has held oftentimes anything short of adequate time and facility it goes to the root of the matter. And so the desperation is legendary, and I must say this: if the House, if the Ninth Assembly is so desperate to pass this legislation, Nigerians must be same desperate to stop this legislation. There is nothing urgent, there is nothing imminent to necessitate the passing of that bill in the manner it is. If there is, it should have been passed in America. There would have been such law in China, there would have been such law in Germany, there would have been such law in Italy. But none of these places will have such law except in Nigeria. So we are saying the desperation is so loud and clear. As a matter of fact, the speaker was quoted of saying that our first assignment, the first thing for us now is to survive, and then how to build a new world. If the primary thing for us now is to survive, why initiate a bill? Why the House sits on a bill in such a manner they are sitting that tends to deprive us of our freedom at a time when millions of Nigerians, mind you, 86.9 million Nigerians live in extreme poverty, at a time that laws should be passed to better the lives and the well-being of Nigerians? Why such a desperation of a bill that causes panic in the public place?
All right, thank you so much. Before we go on a short break, Venerable, in one sentence, why the desperation from this bill? Are you suspecting anything?
Well, Nigerians are suspecting so many things. Yes, Nigerians are suspecting so many things. You see, now, I have a very robust interaction with some persons abroad about 5G.
Okay.
Yes, it's good to bring it to so that we know the kind of the dynamism of the politics that is going on here.
Okay.
One of the discussions that I discussed with in abroad was very, very clear and said that there is an agenda by US to stop the 5G deployment in areas where America have influence.
Okay.
Not because, according to him, not because 5G is dangerous to human health, but because there is business politics, there is security politics. Now, what is the business politics? There's a particular company that deploy 4G, which is China, based in China, and they are the one trying to roll out 5G. There are also companies in US, in UK, that are ready to also deploy the same technology. One, the question of who should be allowed to deploy this technology is one politics. That is the economic angle to the politics.
Yes.
The second angle is in the name of deploying 5G and the power and the that 5G carries, it means so many things can be monitored and so many things in the name of deployment can be included to monitor other things. So because of that, US is not disposed to allow such to be deployed in the United States, in UK, and in all the countries where they have interest. If you carry that...
We have to leave it here
Let
now.
me just land. If you carry that kind of economic security politics to the subject matter now, the question is, many people are already working on different vaccines. This may also be about who should deploy his vaccine to this country, and this may be a ploy to prepare ground for a particular company. Somebody may have actually been bought over. You know, Nigeria has a large population, 200 million people, and the government already have a bill that says vaccine is compulsory. If a company can strike a deal with Nigeria, that is a major bonanza.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir.
So well, to that extent, I suspect something.
Okay, these are speculations. And
yes,
then
and they are valid speculation. And we have the right to speculate.
All right. Viewers, we want to go on a short break, and when we return, we will continue our review.
How do I get tested? If you fall into any of these previously mentioned categories, remain in self-isolation and immediately call your state hotline or the NCDC toll-free line on the screen. The State Ministry of Health, supported by NCDC, will arrange for sample collection and transportation to the lab. Where can I get tested? There are several labs across Nigeria for the testing of COVID-19, and these labs are currently rapidly being expanded across the country to reduce turnaround time from when the samples are taken to when they are tested for the disease. And you can only get tested if you fit the criteria as previously mentioned and a sample has been collected for testing by the state team. What do I do if my COVID-19 test is positive? If your result is positive, please do not panic. Many people who have the infection will show mild symptoms and they can recover quickly with just supportive care. And most of the cases recorded till date in Nigeria are mild to moderate and are clinically stable. What do I do if my COVID-19 test is negative? If your result is negative, it means that you are not infected at the time your sample was taken. However, it is still possible to get infected. Therefore, you should continue to practice social distancing. Wash your hands with soap and running water all the time. Use alcohol-based hand rub frequently and clean your environment all the time. Should I come to the Nigeria Center for Disease Control to get tested? No. If you fall into any of these previously mentioned categories, please remain in self-isolation and immediately call your state hotline or the NCDC toll-free line on the screen.
Viewers, you're welcome back. We want to continue our discussion. Barrister Martin Luther, if you are with me, the need for robust and well-founded research for herbal solutions into a number of these diseases and a total revamp of the health infrastructure is what we need right now, as cited by an individual. What is your take on this?
Thank you so much. Sincerely, I agree with the speaker that this is what is needed at the time. Beyond the legislative powers of the National Assembly, the 1999 Constitution affords the National Assembly of extensive oversight powers over the spending and the management of public funds, federal funds. As Section 81, Section 80, 81, 83, 84 of the 1999 Constitution. I feel what we need to be talking about now are supplementary appropriation bills. Supplementary appropriation bills, Section 83, contingency bills to meet up with the urgent and emergent situations we have found ourselves into. And so much money needs to be deployed to the health sector to encourage a robust research in terms of health. We have people in Nigeria who have come out to say, we have a vaccine. We have a herbal vaccine, local content, and we are supposed to be promoting local content in Nigeria. There's a Local Content Act and all of that. And so we are surprised that instead of appropriation, assuming that's not covered already by the budget, which is suspended, there should be appropriation. Funds should be set out for local research on herbal, on how to. Madagascar, you can imagine Madagascar has produced a cure for coronavirus. WHO, in quotes, WHO may not have recognized that, but is in use in Madagascar. And so Nigeria, as the giant of Africa, the time has come that the National Assembly must use its oversight function granted by the Constitution to ensure that, and where such laws, where such appropriation bills are made, to ensure that there is a proper dispensation of the monies, the palliatives, to the over 86 million Nigerians who are living in extreme poverty. So we must dish out money to encourage local research. And if we have our members who have come up with an idea, who have come up with a cure to this pandemic, we have to support them. So the statement by the person is in the right direction. I vividly concur.
All right, thank you so much. Talking about the herbal medicine, some few days ago, I had to go through the record of Madagascar, and I noticed that they have 400 and something cases and 0 death, which means that the herbal medicine is working seriously. So let's look into what we have here. I'm sure that it will help. There are a number of people who are saying that they have solutions. I think such people, government should give them opportunity for clinical trial and then see what is going to happen. Let's not wait until it comes from abroad.
Yeah, this is where what I expected at the National Assembly, where I expected them to do something drastic. Yes. A good example is Professor Maurice Iwu, who have been talking about some things he has been able to develop that will be of help and all that. If there's any bill we need at this time, is a bill to make research, clinical trial for some of these things an emergency, so that we can develop something. That is what we should be thinking about, not any other thing, how to take away the fundamental human rights of citizens.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Venerable. Now, do you think the National Assembly would adhere strictly to this resolution of the public hearing? Because there are situations where the National Assembly, after the public hearing has been called on some proposed bill, when they want to enact the bill, the discussion on the public hearing and all that came up from the public hearing is set aside, and then they decide to do whatever they want to do.
Can I say this, that there's a popular adage, permit me to state it the way people will understand it. In my area, they say it is when people are washing hands to eat pounded yam, you will know the person that is going to rush that pounded yam.
Okay.
The way and manner in which the person will wash his hand, that is how you will know whether this one is going to rush the pounded yam. The way the House of Rep started with this bill and the way and manner they are going about it shows that something is fishy, shows that they are not ready to follow the rules, shows that they are not ready to listen to any person. Even after demand pressure and everything, I still heard the speaker saying that I read it in one of the Disney newspapers that he is saying because of the situation we found ourselves in, public hearing, it may not be convenient to do any public hearing on this very matter. But that is far from the situation. You can invite head of organizations. You can invite just one person from organization to come and present their document. Yes, it can be done anywhere. So I don't see why they say it's not possible to do public hearing on this. Then, if from the way and manner they were trying to rush this very particular bill, what is the guarantee I have that my position paper will be given attention if I go and just submit it in the Speaker's office or submit it in the Senate President's office? There's no guarantee.
There's no guarantee.
There's no guarantee. The idea and the paper can just be dropped the way so many suggestions, so many reports of conferences and confabs have been dropped in the past. So it's not a new thing. So I think we need to make it clear to the present crops of people in the House of Assembly to realize that the law is not about we that is talking about it today. This is a law that when it is passed, you don't know when it can be amended.
And eventually they too will no longer be in the house.
They too will not be in the
house.
house.
So if they won't be there, it will affect them as well.
This law will affect them, it will affect their children and their children's children. And to that extent, I think they need to tread cautiously. If we are doing anything, let's do the right thing.
All right.
Let's not bring personal interest and into what is going. Let us not introduce business into the business of the National Assembly.
All right. Thank you so much. Now, Martin Luther Okere, what should the National Assembly be doing at this critical time to protect the interest and the well-being of the people they are representing?
All right. Taking it from there, the National Assembly is first the symbol of democracy. It is the emblem of consultation, and so the Constitution in Section 4 has enabled the National Assembly to make laws for the peace, order, and the well-being of Nigerians. But here we have a bill that has made us lose our peace of mind. When it becomes an act, you are sure that there will be no order, and then we would have found ourselves having sacrificed our well-being at the altar of a piece of legislation. What the National Assembly should be doing at this particular time is not to be talking about this kind of bill, but just like the Reverend gentleman have said, is to be promoting local content, is to look inwards. This is what the National Assembly needs to be doing at this particular time. Mind you, whatever law they make, they should have at the back of their mind before, during, and after the legislation, the peace, the order, and the well-being of Nigerians at heart. The Reverend Gentleman and Chaplain of the National Assembly pointed out that it could be that after this bill becomes a law, that the members of this assembly, they are no more there. So what could be the effect? That's what we call consequentialism. Now, you found out that in section 75 of the bill, section 75 of the bill, a bill for an act by the National Assembly, but the power of its amendment was vested on the minister. The power for the amendment of this bill was vested on the minister. And so, having read the 81 sections of this bill, I can tell you it's a lawless legislation. How can the National Assembly make a law, and then its amendment is vested on a minister who is more or less appointed?
Amend such an act when he is not a member of the National Assembly? All right, thank you so much. Now let me get back to Venerable here in the studio. What is your advice to the government and, of course, the masses?
Well, there are so many things to give as advice at this very moment.
Okay.
Let me start from the National Assembly. They should please slow down a little. Let every person look at this bill together, and because you are making a law that will govern my life and govern the future of my children, yet on, even the one that is born and the one that are yet unborn. So let us not rush, and let the National Assembly allow the people they represent to make their input. And the National Assembly should be seen to be supporting the government, cooperating in any angle where, by way of legislation, by way of what they call it, when you there's a way by way of approving supplementary budget if there's need. That is where the National Assembly is needed, and also by way of doing an oversight function to be sure that all the money that are being donated from left, right, the money that are being borrowed, especially the ones that are tied to this COVID-19, are properly utilized by those in the corridor of power. Then on the part of government, I think there's need for massive investment into our health infrastructure at this very time. At least I expect that after COVID-19, the issue of medical tourism should be over, because this is the time for us to look inward and develop our medical facilities. And I also want the government to try as much as possible to encourage research, to support and if there's any innovation, if there's any invention that is related to what is going on at the moment, it should be encouraged. I've heard some people have invented locally made ventilators. Some people are inventing one thing or the other. All these things should be supported. I think the government should set aside the normal protocols and make sure that we get through with this thing without any form of delay or bottleneck. That is on that. This morning, I listened to a professor and a practicing doctor and within Abuja here, who is directly involved, and he is saying that there is urgent need to expand the bed space that we have at the moment, because some of the isolation centers are already congested and numbers are still swelling by the day. So government need to pay attention to that quickly. And still on the part of government, there is still need for a serious awareness campaign. Somebody was saying that is there any person who does not know that coronavirus is real? They are there in their millions. Many people don't even believe that there's coronavirus. So what I suggest for government and the handlers of this COVID-19 is that there's need to show ICUs. There's need to show people, even if you don't want to show the faces of people, we don't need their name, we don't need their identity, but show people ICUs, let people see the people that are battling with these diseases, show doctors that are battling to save people, nurses that are battling, running helter-skelter to save the life of people. It will send signal to people. all over that, look, this thing is real. Do you know the burial of Abba Kyari was a major signal to so many people?
Yeah.
At least, if not for any, that thing sent a very strong signal to all the big men in this country that COVID-19 is real and it can kill any person. Now, if you show this thing to the masses, it will be easy for them to understand the situation we have at hand and know how to apply the rules and regulations, the safety, health safety rules that NCDC have given to us to follow. But if you leave it the way it is, you are always showing us numbers, figures, then you are always showing us isolation center where people are protesting that they have been abandoned and nothing is happening to them, they are not treating them. That is all that people are, government allow people to see. Then you have succeeded in throwing Nigerians into confusion, and that is where there are so much talk now about whether this is politics of sharing money, whether this COVID-19 is real and all that. It's not every Nigerian that have been able to do personal research. Every day I watch CNN, I watch BBC, I watch Al Jazeera, and so many international media. I watch Nigeria media, I read social media. But it's not, how many Nigerians are able to do that? How many of the number of our populace have access to even television, have access to internet? So there is still need for serious awareness campaign. And on the side of the masses, the truth is that we have responsibility to ensure that we are not infected. That is the truth. When I came into the studio, the first question I asked was, has this our table been disinfected today before we come and sit on it? Because I know many people come and sit here. Yeah. The government will not come and help me to disinfect this table in the studio. So every person should be seen to be doing something. You know, when I was coming just now, I came with my mask. It's because we are only two and we can maintain a convenient distance. That's why I'm not wearing it. As soon as I'm stepping out of this place, I will put it on board. When I was driving down, you still see citizens sitting together as if nothing is happening. You see even the people that are wearing the mask, this is where how they are wearing it. This is how they are wearing it. Instead to use it to cover their nose and their mouth. So now we have responsibility to take care of ourselves, to wash our hands as many times as possible, to use as sanitizer. No one will come and help us to do that.
Thank you.
We must be conscious.
The masses should observe all the rules and
all
regulations.
The rules are meant to be observed. It's for our own safety.
By the NCDC. All of us, let's observe it. Now, before we close, Barrister, what is your advice to the government and the masses?
All right. So the government should kindly be reminded that the security and the welfare of the citizens shall be the primary purpose of government, in line with Section 14, Sub 1 of the 1999 Constitution. On that note, adding indignity to perpetual hunger already in the land and insecurity is evidence of collapse of governments. Subsection 2, and then this is Section 14, subsection 2, paragraph B and C. Paragraph C is saying that the participation of the citizens in the government shall be ensured in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. And so they claim that we cannot have a public hearing, that the public cannot be heard because of lockdown or coronavirus. Is at best unconstitutional, because the participation of the citizen shall be ensured according to the provisions of the Constitution. And so equally, when you check the bill, also to add this to the government, take a critical look at the bill, you found out that the several powers vested on the minister transcends beyond health and interferes with trade and commerce. It interferes with aviation, with transportation, and also with businesses. You check Section 20 of that bill. I say this to the people: time to rise above mediocrity has come. This is the time to reject illegality. This is the time to reject whatever form of undemocratic practices coming from anywhere.
So
we must ride on the wind of grace The people must be minded that the government comes and go, but the state and the people remain. So we shall not live beyond this phase. And I must say this to the church, because this is a church channel. I must say this to the church. The church must hold the state accountable, so that God do not hold us culpable for a crime we do not know. We must continue to speak truth to power, because the truth shall make us free. If you watch that bill, you find out that the churches will not escape section 16, section 18 of that bill. And so the churches must hold the state accountable.
Thank you, Martin Luther Okere, Esquire. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you for coming to share your views on this matter. And to our in-house analyst, the Venerable Joseph Unuaya. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you
for your time.
Thank you.
Viewers, thank you so much for being with us. Until we come your way again, same time, same station next week, this is where we call it a wrap.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests and viewers, and does not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the Advent Cable Network Nigeria, ACNNTV.